So maybe let's do this, okay? Where'd it go? This one? So now, where we are, we have talked about the extensive benefits of Bodhicitta, right? So we're all very motivated and sold on the extensive benefits. So now the question comes, given those tremendous benefits, how do we actually generate Bodhicitta within our continuum, right? So now, let's say this, okay? So there's actually, in the traditional text, there's two main ways that the development of bodhicitta is taught. The first is the 7-point cause and effect instructions that were passed down, both methods originated in the Buddha's own words. But then these different lineages of the disciples came about. And so one lineage passed through Maitreya and Asanga, Arya Asanga, who we mentioned before the break, right? And then the other one went through Manjushri, Nagarjuna, down through Shantideva in this text. And so then Atisha, who we also mentioned, is the one who received both lineages from his teacher, Lama Serlingpa, and then brought both of those teaching lineages to Tibet. And then they were both practiced, at first in secret, especially the one taught here in Shantideva's Bodhisattvacharyāvatāra, the equalizing and exchanging self for others. But then, after some time, both lineages came more public, and that has continued to today. So we'll talk about the equalizing and exchanging self for others a bit later, why it was practiced in secret. So anyway, the point is, in this text, the 7-point cause and effect instructions is not explicitly there. Okay, but since it is in the other texts, what I thought we could do is press pause on the Bodhisattvacharyāvatāra, okay? Go to the 7-point cause and effect instructions, and then come back to Bodhisattvacharyāvatāra. Okay? So, in general, it's like this. We alluded to this earlier, where it was like, okay, even to practice virtue, even to abandon non-virtue, even to get liberation for oneself alone, one needs some elements of compassion, right? So then, when we see in this text a kind of what's the word? Dismissive, like, oh, the Hinayana, they have no compassion. That's not, strictly speaking, true. Okay? But there's a special type of compassion that we call, great compassion. Okay? Where, in general, compassion is a wish that others be free from suffering. Right? But there is a difference between a mere wish, like, may all beings be free from suffering, and then taking on the personal responsibility to say, I myself will free all beings from suffering. Okay? So the first type of compassion is found within the Hinayana practitioners who have attained nirvana, and we say for themselves alone. Okay? So they do have the mind that wishes, may all beings be free from suffering. May all beings be happy. Okay? But, you see, that's still at a level of kind of, what would you say? Like wishing, rather than, taking the personal responsibility to make that happen. You see? Yeah. So, it is that, the taking personal responsibility for the welfare of others, that is the distinguishing characteristic of the Mahayana motivation. Okay? And that is the necessary prerequisite before one can attain the mind of bodhicitta. Right? Because although one might say, may all beings be free from suffering, okay, then it's still in the realm of like a wish, right? Then even if one says, I myself will free them from suffering, okay, that's great. But you see, what we define bodhicitta as, and the very famous source of this is the Abhisamaya Alamkara by Maitreya, which we've alluded to many times. But, Senke Pani Shendunche Yamazobe Janchukde, right? So, the mind of enlightenment, okay, Shendunche, for the purpose of others, for the benefit of others, Yamba Zobe Janchu, like the fully perfected, enlightenment, is the wish, right, or the desire. So there's the desire to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. Okay. So then we say, well, there's actually two desires in there, right? There's a desire to benefit others, and then the desire to attain enlightenment. Okay. So the desire to benefit others is what they call the desire at the time of the cause, right? So cause and effect are, temporally, right, sequential, right? So first you have the cause and the effect, right? So similarly, you have first the wish to benefit others, okay? And not only that, but the taking the personal responsibility, I myself will free them from suffering. I myself will do it. Okay? But that's still not bodhicitta. One then has to inquire and see, well, in my current situation, where I am, I'm still deluded, I still have many faults, I still myself am not free from samsara. So how much can I really benefit others? I can't even benefit myself. Then one inquires, and this is what was talked about before, right? You, either by hearing the teachings, or by reading the scriptures, or in some way, right? By then, understanding about the special, uncommon characteristics and qualities of Buddha, then you say, oh, that's what I have to do. That's what I have to attain. That's the only way I'm going to make good on my aspiration to myself, free them from suffering. And then it becomes clear. Therefore, you do make that decision. Therefore, I must attain enlightenment, okay, for the benefit of all sentient beings. So that desire for the attainment of enlightenment is the desire at the time of actual bodhicitta. Okay? So you have those two. Okay? So one thing that is, let me just preemptively address the fact, see, desire, right, it kind of gets a bad rap within Buddhism, but see, not all desire is created equal, right? So, when they talk of desire being an object of abandonment of the path, they're not talking about all desire, yeah, but rather, you could say desire for sense pleasure, desire for, contaminated samsaric happiness, right? Right? That is an object to be abandoned because, well, as Aryadeva says, that, the seeking samsaric pleasures, it's like drinking salt water, right? The more you consume, the more your desire increases, right? So there's actually no end and never finding any fulfillment for that type of desire. Okay? And then, well, of course, the main problem with trying to seek that kind of desire is that, we're actually barking up the wrong tree. Do you have that expression? Yes? Yeah, barking up the wrong tree for our happiness, right? Where, as I like to say, those samsara pleasures, they're just so damn time-consuming, right? So it'd be one thing if, like there is a suigi for all of our samsaric pleasures, right? We can just order and they come right to our door. We don't have to do much effort for them. But unfortunately, it's not like that. Of course, pizza can come, but not everything. Okay? So anyway, what I was saying is then, the fully characterized mind of bodhicitta has these two desires with him. The desire at the time of the cause, which is great compassion, and the desire at the time of the actual bodhicitta, which is the desire to attain enlightenment. Okay? So we need both of those. Okay? But of the two, which is the more difficult?
First one.
Yes. The mind taking personal responsibility to free others from their suffering. Okay? And why is that?
Everyone wants to be enlightened, if it's possible. Almost. The enlightenment part everyone is happy about. Mostly.
Well, actually, Shanti, most people don't even think that there is something like enlightenment to begin with, right?
Everyone wants to be fully happy and omniscient and all that.
Wow. Really?
Happiness is not equal to enlightenment.
Okay. Maybe I shouldn't ask any more questions. Okay. Didn't Shantideva say if this mind doesn't arise even for themselves, how can it arise in the sense of others? So most people aren't even thinking like they of course they want to be happy, but they're not thinking I want to become omniscient, right? How many of your friends are like, they might want to become like a Khor or something, like, right? Or famous. But who wants to become omniscient? Huh? So, people... Okay, Sebastian. Thank you. People don't even know. They have no idea of the sense of possibility out there for our, our human potential, isn't it? I mean, even on a very basic level, right? To say, right, that one can abandon anger completely to the point where you never get angry ever again. It's impossible that you would ever get angry, right? What I normally hear a lot, especially in beginners courses, it's like, that's just part of our nature. That's just part of human nature, right? Human nature means being a human, you necessarily have, right? Just like the nature of water is to be wet, moistened, right? Right? Am I? Okay, sorry. I'm rhetorical question. You can just say like this or like this. Yeah? So, yeah. I disagree with the people that say everyone wants enlightenment. No, that's not. People don't even know enlightenment exists. Therefore, how can you even want it? Right? No. Rather, people, unenlightened beings, like ourselves, I'll agree that we want happiness, but the point is, we are so preoccupied with, me, myself, right? Me, myself, and I, right? That's the most important, right? By far. Like, the amount of, effort we put into bringing happiness, alleviating suffering, for ourselves versus what we do for others, is a joke. And this is even among people that might be coming to the center for a long time. It might even apply for people who come and sit on this and talk about the benefits of Bodhicitta, right? And so, the reason for this, there's actual particular terminology within the Buddhist context. It's called the self-cherishing thought. Okay? Now, as I often say, when we come to these lectures and we're talking about Buddhist philosophy, sometimes the words we use have a particular connotation that differ from what normal people on the street would talk about, right? Okay? So I'm saying, that the self-cherishing thought is an object to be abandoned by someone who wants to enter the Mahayana path. Okay? Right? But I'm going to distinguish this self-cherishing thought from normal, what people talk about when they talk about cherishing. Cherishing means basically like to care for, to take care of. Right? So it's not then, the self-cherishing thought is an object to be abandoned, I'm not going to take care of myself anymore. Right? No, it's not like that. But rather, it's a particular thought that would hold ourselves to be more important than all other sentient beings. Okay? So we think about it, right? We're just one person, right? All sentient beings are countless. Okay? So when we look at it from a very, third party perspective, objective, try to be objective, who is more important, the one or the many? The many, right? But when it comes down to where our energy is focused, what our activities are trying to accomplish, it's not even close, say this story kind of as a joke, but I think it's an effective illustration, right? So remember, the point is for all these teachings, by the way, that we, use the Dharma as a mirror. We look at what's in the text, we compare that to what's going on in our minds, and then we cry. But anyway, I use this story that, I used to live in New York, and there's quite a few, homeless people, beggars in New York. And one time I come out of a restaurant, and a beggar asked me for money. And I say, sorry, I don't have any change. Right? We've all been there. And what he says to me, he says, well, I take 20s. Here, a 20. This is a $20 bill. Right? So, very, 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 very tasty. Right? Now, by the way, this is before I, obviously before I became a monk, before I really became interested in Dharma, but I think about it a lot. See, the normal tendency, right, for ourselves, we go out, very easily spend $20 for a meal for ourselves, right? $20 for, one drink for, ourselves and a buddy. Okay? Like, without a second thought. Yes? Okay. When it comes to benefiting someone else who's in need, right? And we were saying before, this $20 to them would be a lot, more valuable than it is to us, right? When it comes time to benefit others, then what do? Our natural inclination is to search for the change. To search, to put it another way, for an amount of money that if we somehow, there was a hole in our pocket, it fell down the gutter, no effect on us at all, right? It wouldn't affect our purchasing power. We wouldn't even reach down into the gutter to pick it up. Yes? Okay. So, that's self-cherishing at work, right? This kind of, for us, oh yes, very, very easy to justify, doing things that benefits us. And by the way, I'm not talking about benefits us going on a 6-month retreat. I'm talking about worldly, samsaric benefit. Yes? Whereas the activities we actually do for others, we do very little. When we do it very grudgingly, kicking and screaming. And then even if we do something very small, we think, oh, we're just we're Mother Teresa or something, Those times, okay, oh, I gave $1. Yes, not just the money that jingles, but I gave something that folds. I'm such a good person, right? Yeah? Do you think like this? Yeah. So that is the one that's abandoned by the Mahayana path. Okay? Because, can you imagine? Remember we were saying, what would Buddha do? What would Buddha do? Buddha's asked for something. He's like, oh, yeah, sorry. I don't have change. Right? Huh? Can you imagine that? So that is the particular object of abandonment on the Mahayana path. That is like the kind of, that's the big roadblock to us even getting on the Mahayana highway, right? This self-cherishing mind. So then, the main type of training that we must engage in to develop bodhicitta is going to work on this self-cherishing thought. And these two methods, okay, each emphasize something a little bit different, okay? Which basically is like this. Since we consider the self-cherishing mind to have an inflated sense of preoccupation and concern for ourselves, we can either do two things. We can either bring down our concern for ourselves, knock it back down a few notches to something realistic, or we can raise our concern for others. Okay? And these two methods to develop bodhicitta emphasize one of those two methods in turn. Okay? Of course, later we'll talk about how to then combine the two, because, it's good. It's like, Augmentin, do you know? The drug Augmentin, right? It's an antibiotic. It actually combines two different antibiotics. If you don't know, then good for you. If you do know, that means you might have sinus infection. It's like I do, okay? Because what happens? You take one antibiotic, right? Then what happens? Then you get the drug-resistant bacteria, right? So then they combine two that can then, if the one doesn't kill, then the other one will kill, right? Okay. So, of course, then these two methods of doing developing bodhicitta, we can combine, and then they act as the real killer for the self-cherishing mind. Okay? So, first we're going to talk about the 7-point cause and effect instructions. Okay? Now, this method is the one that is going to emphasize raising our level of concern for others.